Never try to teach a pig to sing. It doesn't work and it annoys the pig. Remember that pigs are very intelligent animals. And that quote, well, it sums up my feelings about New Year's resolutions. So maybe think about it. It's the darkest season where our bodies cry out for hibernation and hunkering down and inward. Contrary to what our bodies and spirits want to do, in our secular culture, we are expected to be festive party animals, stuffing our faces and guts, becoming drunken fools, counting down to some magical time of midnight. We are Cinderellas at the ball, hoping to be changed. But unlike Cinderella, we are not changed to our true selves, but to some idea of a new self. And then we wake up the next morning to empty bottles and dirty dishes everywhere, and in some case, headaches. This is the result of New Year's resolutions? No, thank you. I'm sticking with the pig. You know, in Judaism, the new year begins with Rosh Hashanah in either September or October, depending on where the moons fall. It's a time after the harvest is in, a time when you can rest, when time opens up and folks have the opportunity to reflect, to self-evaluate, and even to make right what has been broken in relationships. There are no fireworks. There is no stuffing of face and gut. Alcohol has no part to play. The pagan New Year also begins in October with Samhain. It's on the 31st of October. It's a time when the veil between the living and the dead is thought to be at its thinnest. In her book, Circle Round, Starhawk writes of the new year that it teaches us that letting go is a natural part of life. When we let go, we make space for something new. Now, contrary to the hands that were in this particular space today, 45% of us make New Year's resolutions. And guess how many of us succeed? 8%. And here's the other thing. You might have heard that it takes 30 days to establish a habit. Wrong. Research shows that it takes anywhere from 18 to 245 days for people to form a new habit, which is what our resolutions really are about. And those resolutions are either about letting go of a habit or establishing a new one. We have artificially chosen this time of year to let go and make, as Starhawk said, room for something new. A resolution implies, I will. The most common resolutions are what? Weight. They're health related, so I will lose weight. I will magically give up smoking. I will exercise more. I will drink less and less caffeine. Resolutions imply making changes. In her book, This Year I Will, How to Finally Change a Habit, Keep a Resolution, or Make a Dream Come True, M.J. Ryan asserts that most of us don't know how to change. She talks about instinctual drift, the tendency to go back to old habits. And we know it's true. When there are two partners in a relationship and one decides they want to change the dynamic, the other will up their behavior to try and force that old dynamic to reappear and stay in place like it should. The fact is that whenever we initiate change, we also activate the fear response. And when the fear is big enough, we activate the fight or flight or freeze response, and we end up running from what we are trying to do. And the truth is, our brain lays down neural pathways of the familiar. These pathways are incredibly powerful. So when we resolve to do something new, we are fighting ourselves on the neural and emotional level, which form a pretty fierce opposition. But if you insist on making resolutions, all three hands that went up, and changes at this time of year, let me give you some tips based on a variety of research in this area. Habits are a process, not an event. One does not lose 70 pounds in 2 weeks. Make small, incremental changes or improvements. Don't decide to start training for a marathon, build a shed, and clean the garage from top to bottom all at once. Resolutions are really about breaking patterns of behavior or habits. And breaking a habit really means establishing a new habit. The old habit or pattern of responding is still there, but it's less dominant. It's much easier to start doing something new than to stop doing something habitual without a replacement behavior. Maybe it just doesn't make sense for you to give up coffee, but maybe you could carry your mug with you so that you're not wasting paper at all the different coffee establishments. Or maybe even better yet, make that coffee at home. See how much that adds up to each week. People who want to kick their habit for reasons that are aligned with their personal values will change their behavior faster than people who are doing it for external reasons, such as pressure from others. Family or physicians pounding on someone to lose weight doesn't work. Asking instead how they can be most supportive for that process to be effective does work. Stop asking why we engage in such and such a behavior and start asking, what can we do to change it? It's easy to avoid making change if we allow ourselves to succumb what we are so good at, which is paralysis by analysis. And the difference in those who fail and who succeed at making a change is not the number of times they fail at it. Those who succeed are those who mind their failures and find information in that failure and try again. Many of us will relapse when we try to change a behavior. What we need to do is to prepare for that relapse, learn from it, forgive ourselves so we can get back to the business of making the changes we want to in our lives. Find a way to track the change or habit you are making. Maybe it's a journal. Maybe it's a star on a calendar. It's like someone once said, your head, don't go there alone. In other words, find a person or persons or a group that can be your support. It is the rare person who can make a change alone. Learn to ask for help in making changes. The average craving for what one may be addicted to comes up around 4 to 7 times a day, and it lasts for only a couple of seconds. But the time between the impulse and action is half a second. You have to increase awareness so that you have a choice between impulse and action. Says Ryan, awareness is the potential for freedom from our habituated mind. Says philosopher Henry Bergson, to exist is to change. To change is to mature. To mature is to go on creating oneself endlessly. Gretchen Rubin, author of several books on happiness, states that, quote, habits are the invisible architecture of daily life. Research shows that approximately 40% of our existence is shaped by our habits. And most importantly, she says, there is no magic one-size-fits-all solution to changing habits. You have to find the one that is right for you. So me, I'm still sticking with the pig. So as Martha said earlier, the theme for this month is possibility. And I'd like to separate out possibility from resolution. For resolutions are limited by willpower, emotion, neural pathways, and years of entrenched habits or behaviors. Resolutions call for an iron person discipline and intellectual and emotional muscle mass. Yet when it comes to possibility, we are only limited by our imaginations. And though the dictionary defines possibility as a noun, I would like us to consider it as a verb, an action. For the definition is a thing that may happen, chance, probability, hope. Perhaps we should all join Martha Snyder as possibilitarians. Stay grounded, but entertain options and outcomes. When I use the word possibility, the world opens up before me infinitely. It tells me to move into that open space and experiment, to try and to do. One doesn't relapse from possibility, but is charged and recharged by it. It builds upon itself. What if the question we started asking around this community was, what's possible? As opposed to, what's that going to cost? I believe we can go further in living into our mission if we ask that question of what's possible rather than by living with the mindset of scarcity and constraint. Margaret Wheatley, writer and consultant and a million other things, writes, there is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. I think beginning a new year, whether it begins for you in October or September, when the kids go back to school, or on January 1, with the idea of possibility as a noun and a verb, would serve us all better than resolutions. One of the ways that any of us can do that is to revive an old Christian tradition from the time of the Pillar Saints in the deserts, which was sometime in the 4th and 5th centuries. And these were mystics who went out into the desert to live literally at the top of a pillar. As one person wrote about the Pillar Saints, the desert was a threshold place where you emerged different than when you entered. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out into the deserts and live up on a pillar, because there was another tradition that's associated with this that I would encourage you to do. It was a tradition of people going out into the desert to find these mystics and asking them for a word or a phrase to ponder for weeks, years, and even a lifetime. The writers of the Soul Matters curriculum, which are the folks who set the themes for the year, talk about the meaning behind asking for a word. The idea behind this practice was that a simple word, when reflected upon with discipline, has the power to create possibilities in us and in the world. These words weren't instructions so much as invitations to open oneself in new ways. As one writer puts it, they are about deepening and unfolding rather than fixing and improving. This tradition of asking for a word has been somewhat revived, but with a slight twist. I really don't know a whole lot of desert saints anymore. So the tradition now has become the word or the phrase finding you, or coming out from within you. Maybe you thought, oh, I got this word, Lois, I got it. I know it, I know it, I know it. And a week later, you're going to find out that another word comes to you, and that is the word that you need. You may not know why it came to you, or you may. So the idea is to find a word at the beginning of the new year that will help you live into possibilities throughout the year. There are entire websites devoted to the idea of being found by a word for a year. And here are some of the ones that were more than the usual ones that we would expect. My word is incorrigible, and it comes from a quote by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. If you have yet to be called incorrigible, defiant woman, don't worry, there is still time. Holy pause. It will be a difficult but necessary practice. Embrace, as in be okay with all that is present, both within and without, with the mystery and the unknown, with the uncomfortable and the painful, with the uncertainty and the wildness. More than just accept, embrace. See it all as limbs of the divine. Vibrant integration. The stillness beyond acceptance. Coming home. Illumine. To listen. Benacht, which means blessing. And it was from a poem by the late John O'Donohue. Loving kindness. Think gently, speak gently, and live gently, so that the whole world will be touched gently by the essence of your being. Turn around. It means to stop running and look around and to be grateful about the view. And the last one I picked for you is shed. It evokes the idea of getting rid of not only stuff, but bad habits, tired ideas, pointless attachments of many kinds, and as a result, feeling a little lighter. If we know that we shouldn't try to teach a pig to sing because it doesn't work and it only annoys the pig, what should we offer the pig? Maybe sanctuary or reprieve from slaughter? What should any of us be offered at the new year if not a resolution? What if we were all offered a word that opens up possibilities that could not have been predicted? What would it be like to wrap that word around you? To have it lead you for a year, to live inside of it, to emerge from it, to discover what is possible. I challenge each and every one of us to let go of resolutions and all that is attached in them. I ask each one of us instead to think about what is possible. I ask you to be courageous and find your word, or let it find you, and live inside of it and see where it takes you. And as the poet Aurora Levins Morales writes, say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorposts, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders, teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep. Here in the cruel shadow of empire, another world is possible. Yes, my friends, Another world is possible. Yes, yes, yes.